My name is Aaron Ladd, host of the Chiefs Squad Show, and Kansas City's offense is about to get even more electric with the return of Rashee Rice.
And I am JC Pearson, former Chiefs player. What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? And yes, it is Raider week, and I'm going to explain to you all where that saying started and where it came from.
Hey, everyone, I'm Darren Smith, and with the return of Rashee Rice, how much pressure is that going to put on Patrick Mahomes to win another MVP, this time without Eric Bieniemy calling the plays?
Chiefs Kingdom, stand up. It's the Chiefs Squad. Everything Kansas City Chiefs every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from Arrowhead Stadium, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Squad up. The Chiefs Squad Show starts now.
All right, we got a packed show here on the Chiefs Squad Show. Thanks for joining us on a Wednesday. Remember, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Aaron Ladd here, host of the Chiefs Squad Show. I covered the team in Kansas City for 4 years, covered 3 Super Bowls. JC Pearson played for the team. He was in the locker room. Darren Smith is in the locker room right now, was there post-game and continues to do that every Sunday here on the Locked On Network. And you know Ryan Tracy as well from The Daily Show for you everyday Locked On fans. Appreciate you joining us as we preview this Raider game. And here's what you can expect in today's episode. We will put a bow on a win on Sunday Night Football, a dominant win for Kansas City over the Detroit Lions. We will recap that game as well as look ahead to Raider Week, as JC mentioned, who's in and who's out on this Wednesday. Of course, we have to preview the return of Kansas City's wide receiver one, Rashee Rice, rearing and ready to go and add a fuel to this Kansas City offense. And finally, Geno Smith, one of the worst quarterbacks in all of the NFL, comes in to Arrowhead Stadium. How can Kansas City make sure that he stays on the downside? Let's start with recapping this Detroit win. We got some new faces here on the Squad Show. JC, what did you see and what stood out from you from that Detroit game and the win for Kansas City?
Man, I really expected nothing less, to be honest with you, because those were the kind of games that this team historically shows up for. Those games where, people aren't giving them much of a chance. It's a team that, supposed to go to the Super Bowl from the other conference, et cetera, et cetera. But, they showed up. They played well. No penalties after having 13 penalties the week before. No turnovers. And anytime you can not have any penalties, which is, that's rare, and no turnovers. And this team is going to be tough to beat. Defensively, they only give up 17 points. I don't care about all the yards. I don't care about all that other. Hey, the bottom line is, how many points do you give up? The Lions were coming in scoring almost 40 points a game. And, that's why people thought it was going to be a tough game. But, the defense gives up 17 and come out of there looking like the Chiefs of old.
I think we talked about this a couple of times on the post-game show. Didn't really look like the traditional Lions, and it didn't look like the Chiefs that we had been used to seeing as well. As you mentioned, the no penalties, and it looks clean as well. I also want to spotlight Mahomes playing clean. Been one of the best years that he's had in recent memory, and maybe that's been overshadowed by some of the other things that's going on. Ryan, what stood out to you from the Sunday night win for Kansas City over Detroit?
For me, it comes back down to getting off of that roller coaster where one side of the ball is up, one side of the ball is down. You played a complete game. You got everybody going in one direction, and that's what it takes to get W's. That's the bottom line. And I'd even argue with you just a little bit. I would say that it's Mahomes' weapons that have turned it around, that look more like normal, quote unquote. I think this is an operation that we don't give enough credit to and the way that Andy Reid runs this. It is on a knife's edge. If you lose a weapon, you lose timing, you lose a blocker. It can throw the whole system off on the offensive side of the ball. And kudos even more to Jalen Moore. He's the guy that stood out to me the most on the offensive side, because that is a tough thing to get thrown in there 24 hours notice.
Man, let me say something to that real quick, though. And if you notice, just the scheme changed. They're getting rid of the ball a lot quicker. They're throwing a lot of screens outside, which in a sense are like running plays. So they're not just dropping back and running around and trying to throw the ball down the field. They're getting rid of the ball quicker, running slants, running intermediate routes and timing routes. And that's something that we hadn't seen much of. So that's why this team is starting to really, get in a rhythm and get going, take some pressure off of that offensive line as well.
Darren, I know you like. I know you like being the negative Nancy, so I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to be negative. When we're talking about this Kansas City win over Detroit, special teams and the running backs, right? Those are the two things you talked about that stood out from that game as far as things that could improve going forward.
Well, of course, it can always improve. But I want to push back to both JC and Ryan because to their points. I would say it's more so Patrick Mahomes having more confidence now in the offensive line. And while shout out to Jalen Moore for coming in kind of like Rocky at the last moment, he had a birth of his kid earlier in the day, and then Adrian told him to go win and and have the opportunity to go play starting left tackle. But also Jawan Taylor. Jawan Taylor has had 3 great weeks of playing penalty-free football. And so with that, Mahomes, I think he was only pressured 5 times, had 3 sacks, but overall, Mahomes has a lot more confidence in that offensive line, which has improved greatly, which allows some of the scheming that JC talked about and some of the running attacks that they've been able to do. And again, cleaning up 13 penalties to 0 in 1 week, that says a lot about the players themselves and the coaching staff to clean all this stuff up within less than a week.
We're not going to talk about the fight. Nobody wants to get messy and talk about. He said, "What fight?" It ended up suspension.
Man. It wasn't a fight. It was a.
It wasn't a fight.
Yeah.
He got sucker punched. My bad.
Somebody got stole on. That's what we call it, right?
maybe the Chiefs are officially back because now teams are very angry and they're starting fights with them after the game.
Hey,
it's interesting. Hey. Well, look, from my vantage point, because I know you and I talked about a little bit, Aaron, was that I'm in the tunnel. So we saw something on the TV that was going on. We saw some kind of records, but we didn't know exactly what it was. And I know coming up as the players were coming up, I saw Juju, his nose bleeding and they holding a white towel over his nose. So, it was, good for the cameras or whatever. So I didn't actually see what started or what led to it. But when I saw the highlights, I could understand why old boy Branch, was a little salty, but you gotta get over that, man.
You beat a team. You beat a team bad when they can't fight back anymore on the field, so they have to fight,
bro. That's some college. That's some college stuff. Very rarely do you see that.
Well, you see that in college, though,
huh?
Nah, I said you really don't see that in college that.
Yeah, you see, I know. But the only other time I saw something like that was when Trent Williams hit Richard Sherman. Right when right, you remember that, but you don't see that kind of stuff, man, because back in the day, I'm gonna tell you, bro, it would have been something jumping off in the tunnel after that, because it wouldn't have just ended like that, man. If somebody's still on you like that, come on, man. So we're gonna take it in the back.
A commenter jumped in here, and I actually think this is something good that we should talk about as we recap this Detroit win. And we talked about it a little bit post game, but it's not in the lineup the rest of the show. Are we worried about Butker? Are we worried about the special teams unit? It seems like every week there is some sort of issue, whether it's missing the landing zone, whether it's a missed kick. In this one, it didn't come back to bite you too much. Obviously, it was a mixed extra point early, but 6 missed kicks on the year for a guy who's usually one of the most reliable kickers in the National Football League. Ryan, where's your panic meter on Harrison Butker? And then we'll go around the horn as we recap this Detroit win.
Yeah, it's bouncing off the floor. It's not flat where it ought to be, but it's not like pegged on the other side either. You know what I mean? The going down to the knee that we saw last season made me a lot more nervous because I thought there was a physical or a mechanical problem. But this seems to be, in my opinion, mental, timing, repetitions. And I don't know if that's distractions. I don't know if that's practice conditions that are not letting him get comfortable. It looks like a comfort thing to me for a guy that ought to be comfortable walking out on the field anytime he can. So I'm a little perplexed by it, to tell you the truth. And there's really no out for them in terms of the contract, et cetera. I think what you got to do is just kind of boil things back down to basics, go to fundamentals, and try to help him self-correct rather than try to correct.
And he's going to stay by his guys, Darren. You know that.
Yeah, look, and talking to Harrison after the game Sunday, he believes it's more, like you said, a little more technique. I know with the missed extra point, he said he kind of slipped some on that. The landing zone deal in Jacksonville, he said that he believes that's just a one-off. It's just one of them times, just a freak incident where he kicked the ball out of bounds. But overall, it is a concern when it comes to the field goal kicking and stuff like that. But as I've said, with the return of Rice, and I know we'll talk more about it, this offense being what it is, if it does what it's supposed to do, Harrison Butker shouldn't be attempting long field goals unless it's towards the end of the half.
JC, let me put a little twist on this before we pass it to you. You've been in the locker room. I'm sure you've been around teammates who have struggled or gone through tough stretches. What do you say to a guy who you know is a key part of the team, who you know is reliable, who you know is going to have to come up in a big spot? What do you say to Harrison Butker if you're in the locker room trying to get his head right? Because we all think it's a mental thing.
Well, I mean, everybody goes through stuff in that locker room, man. So everybody's you're responsible for yourself, to be honest with you, at that level. But let me ask you this. And Ryan said that he's not really, it's not flat, but it's not bouncing off the floor or whatever. When is the last time you've seen an NFL kicker miss a kick in 6 straight games? And I know one of the kicks was out of bounds, right? But that's a missed kick. But when have you seen a kicker miss a kick 6 straight weeks? Now that's something more than mental, or, I mean, especially for a guy that's been doing it at a high level year after year. So something's not right. Something's not right there. I'm telling you.
It's definitely a confidence issue. It's definitely a confidence issue. And we compare it to, or at least I have in the past compared it to golf. It's a very individual aspect. It's the position kicking, especially in the NFL, is unlike any other position on the field. You work out by yourself. The specialist is Tobe, it's the holder, it's the punter, and it's Butker. And it's very individual in how you approach the game, how you try to get better, how you work on your shortcomings. And I think when you're starting to kind of snowball down, it can kind of mentally play with you a little bit. And I think it's kind of similar to golf where, you got to play yourself kind of through those stretches a little bit. Ryan touched on it. There's no out in the contract. They're not cutting the guy. They're not getting a replacement or bringing in competition. And it's very clear that he's going to be the one that's going to have to play himself through it. You said it yourself. You got to kind of you're responsible for yourself in a way.
Yeah, no question. But, and I would buy all of that if he was a young guy, rookie, second-year guy. This is the guy that kicked in Super Bowls. He's kicked in big games. He's kicked in AFC championships. Regardless of the weather, he's made great kicks. So to now say, oh man, I'm mental, I'm struggling, I can't make a kick. I don't know if I'm buying that, man. He's been through too much and has done too much. So, I don't know if they're trying to change something he's doing, because I know he said his mechanics and maybe trying to do something a little different, whatever the case may be. But, you got, and if you ask those guys in the locker room, you got one job, bro, kick the ball. Right. Yeah. And that's what they'll tell you. They may not tell you, but I'm telling you, that's what they're thinking. Just kick the ball, man. That's what you do. We expect you to make the kicks. And he's done it at a high level, and he's expected to continue to do that.
I just want to say, I'll shoot him some bail. He made 4 more kicks the rest of the game. He didn't miss it. He didn't miss another kick the rest of the game.
But it ain't the ones you make. It's the ones you miss that change games.
Exactly. Right.
And I was going to say to JC's point, Harrison himself says that he's told me he's got one job, and that is, of course, to make the kicks. The simplest thing is I think he needs to get through a game where he's not having any missed kicks, any missed field goals, any missed landing zones. And I think that, that kind of starts something, because I remember talking to him after I think it might have been the Eagles game, where, I asked him specifically, do you go back and you look at these kicks that have played a role in the team losing, to see that, hey, if I made this kick, obviously the game would have been changed a little bit later. Because if you look at it, you think back to the Brazil game, he runs out and makes the 59-yarder right before halftime, rushes it, but then you miss the extra point. Now that extra point forces the team, when they score, to try to go for 2. They missed the 2, and now you're playing catch up the rest of the way, instead of it being a tie ball game where it could come down to you making a walk-off field goal or something, and then you look at what happened subsequent weeks. So it does have a mental effect on a player when you know that what you're doing has an adverse effect on the scoreboard towards the end of the game. So I think he needs to get through. And look, Raiders week coming up, perhaps he needs to just get through a clean game, and that the yips might disappear.
Man, you know what it is, man. And I'm sorry, Ryan. Let me say this, man. Ever since he went to the White House, no, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Yo,
Ryan.
Raider week is coming up. We're done with this topic now, and we're going to transition on to Raider week on that note. Maybe Harrison Butker can have a clean game against the Raiders. We will preview that right after this. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you can unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting. Just ask Darren Smith. He's a FanDuel frequent flyer. And if you got a little something riding on the action, just imagine the fun. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today to get started. All right, Chief Squad Show here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Aaron Ladd, JC Pearson, Ryan Tracy, and Darren Smith previewing Raider Week for you. And it's Wednesday, so we got our first look at the injury report for Kansas City. Josh Simmons, who we talked about in the Detroit game, is a DNP with personal reasons on Wednesday as well. We will monitor that as the week continues. So is Rashee Smith with an illness, DNP Wednesday. But let's go to JC first on this one, because you've got an insight that nobody else on this show has when it comes to Raider Week. This is obviously a tense rivalry. These two are bitter enemies in the AFC West. What was it like being in the locker room? And then why is the Raider Week slogan? Where does that come from?
So this is how Raider Week, the slogan started. Marty Schottenheimer hated Al Davis, hated him with a passion. And so Al used to always pregame stand on the sideline on our side, watch our guys warm up, watch everybody warm up. Marty hated Al Davis. So whenever we played the Raiders, Marty started, it's Raider Week, signs in the locker room, streamers everywhere. They talked about it in the all the meetings, and that's where Raider Week started. Raider Week was just another week. Obviously, it was a rivalry prior to that, but Marty Schottenheimer made it Raider Week, where it was just talked about every day of the week. Hate the Raiders, hate Al Davis, hate everything about him, and that's where it started, and that's where it is today.
The one thing that stands out to me, obviously, I'm an outsider coming into this rivalry, but being at Arrowhead Stadium for Christmas Day and watching Aiden O'Connell beat the Chiefs without completing, did he have not a complete pass in the second half? I just think about some of these weird oddities as far as how these two teams play games. And hopefully, Ryan, maybe this one is not another oddity, another weird addition into this one. The Chiefs are clearly the better team.
Yeah, that's not enough, though. They were clearly the better team on the merry-go-round where they took the victory lap, right? You got to still get out there and play. You got to go hit those guys. You have to stop Max Crosby. I think, honestly, if you do that, you're probably getting that W. I know Geno might pull something out, some kind of crazy hat trick. You never know. But it's about Max for me. It's about focusing on him because he's the one guy that I feel has the talent level to really wreck what you're trying to do.
Ashton Genty doesn't scare you, Darren Smith?
Nope, he doesn't. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's still the Raiders. Like the Raiders would do Raider things such as penalties. And look, and Max Crosby not the only one. I know they got Jonah Lalu as well. That saying that both of them have 4 sacks on thus far this season. But really, it's you can stop that. But I think if I'm Spags, I'm looking to stop the run, stop Genty, and force Geno Smith to beat me, because the fact that he's just throwing the ball all over the place and getting interception after interceptions, he has packages that are gift wrapped for you. You just have to take advantage of it and take it.
I think part of that too is offensive line, because when you look at his completion percentage, right, his completion percentage is better than Pat's. When you look at him, obviously he's got 10 picks, but he's been sacked 18 times. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand. So it's the offensive line. I think Spags is going, confuse the hell out of those guys and bring guys from all over the place. And, and that leads to those interceptions. But, like you said, I'm not really worried about Ashton Genty. Nobody's really had a good game running on this defense in a long time, right? So I don't think that's going to happen. I know Ryan, Ryan was like, I don't know. I don't remember anybody having a great game against this defense running the ball. Do you? I might be wrong, but I don't remember that. So I think
Josh
they'll
a few
take
years ago, but he's in Green Bay. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's those streaky weird things, right?
Right. So I don't think that Ashton Genty's going to just have that breakout game against the Chiefs at Arrowhead. So they're gonna be able to pressure Geno and probably force some picks. Now, like Ryan was saying, the thing is you don't want to turn the ball over. Let Max get force a strip sack or rush Patrick into throwing the ball somewhere he doesn't want to throw it. That kind of stuff. As long as they play clean, it should be fine.
I mentioned Genty because he looks like a different running back since going back to that Michael Myers stance of his these last 3 games, and it is spooky season, so maybe something spooky happens in this rivalry. For me, this is a game that's all about Kansas City. Handle your business, play your best ball, and nobody can beat you. 31 points per game over the last 3 for Kansas City, and you're now adding Rashee Rice back in, who we'll touch on in the next topic. Don't let the weird things happen. In divisional games, you really can't take anything for granted. That doesn't just apply to the AFC West. You see that across all levels of the National Football League. These teams play each other so often that these weird oddities just seem to happen. Just handle your business for Kansas City. You're starting to click. The mental side of it is starting to come into a factor. We talked about that on the last episode with the coaches starting to call plays that fit best to what this team does well. If this team can figure out what they do well, I don't think it really matters who's lining up across from them, Darren Smith. What do you think about that?
No, I agree with that. And I'm thinking back to last year's Black Friday game between these two teams. The reason why the game was so close because we saw bad protection, bad line protection from the Chiefs. With Kingsley and then of course Wanye Morris, and we saw Patrick literally telling Andy, "Yo, get this guy out the game," because he was getting hit left and right. So when I see that and I see the improvement that the Chiefs have made, is with this offensive line, again, I as you said. All they have to do is just do what they're supposed to do, and I would say mirror what they did last week. Again, defensively, I don't fear Ashton Genty at all. I don't care what type of stance he has. I don't care if he's in a 3-point stance, 4-point stance, I formation. Kansas City defense is going to do what they want to do when it comes to stopping the run. I really do think though that this is a game made for Chris Jones. Again, we talk about the pressure and the trouble that Geno Smith has been having controlling the football, and then you put pressure on him. This could be a multi-pick game for Trent McDuffie or Jalen Watson or someone out there, because he's going to put the ball up in the air and he's going to put the ball up in, trying to make plays, and he'll just put the ball in harm's way. So this is an opportunity for Spags' defense to, move up the stats when it comes to turnovers and forcing turnovers, which is what they need to be doing.
Yeah, Ryan, jump in here because Geno Smith currently leads the league in interceptions with 10.
Yeah, you don't want to be a leader in that, right? That's a negative. Let's make sure we're all on the same page for that one. I'll tell you what, and I like what you said, Darren, because I do think opportunity is going to be there. The guy that I'm looking for, because I think he's played some significant snaps in terms of his impact when he's in the game, but he's not a primetime starter. I think Chris Rowland-Wallace is a guy that can play a little bit of two high, maybe even a little bit single high, and look to take that ball away. I think he's got the instincts to really make an impact. Now, I want to see him on the field more. It's one of the things that I'm looking for, hopefully, this week.
JC, I got a question for you because I heard this for a while when I was in Kansas City. I heard, and maybe obviously different coaching staff, but I heard Andy Reid and company maybe don't show their full entirety of their playbook or their hands or their cards early in the season. They wait until later in these divisional games to kind of unleash some of the things that they were working on in training camp in St. Joe. Did that happen? Is that true? Are there any rumors you think maybe we could see some different wrinkles in this one?
Well, not for any team that I played on. You're trying to win, in the words of Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. So pull out all stops every game to win. You're not saying, oh, let's hold this back until we play Denver. Let's hold this back
Buffalo.
And then lose. Yeah, and then lose the game you're playing. No, you're playing every week to win. And now does that mean that you take like you guys were saying, is teams can evolve and they can change their offense based on what their guys are doing well. That doesn't mean that they held anything back. Maybe they're saying, okay, well, maybe this play works better with him in the game, or let's run this, let's run that. You're constantly evolving and learning. If not, then teams are going to game plan against you all day and stop what you're doing. So you evolve offensively and defensively, game plan wise, but no, by no means does anybody hold anything back in 1 week for another week.
Darren, you're our Vegas expert here. I'm seeing 11.5. I'm seeing 12.5. What's your vibe on the spread here? What are you feeling?
Look, man, I'll be honest, man. I'd never like to take the Chiefs with the points, regardless, because you do that, you will go broke. So I just take. Look, I either take Chiefs money line or I take Chiefs +6 because they don't normally get blown out. So if I'm gonna take the Chiefs, I'm taking the money line or +6.
I would like to see Kansas City's run game evolve. We talked about this a little bit on the last episode, but This is an overmatched opponent. This is a team that clearly everyone thinks, the whole panel here agrees, not that we're completely unbiased. Vegas agrees as well. Let's get the running game going. Let's get Isaiah Pacheco going downhill. Let's get some of those angry runs that we saw in the fourth quarter starting in the first quarter. Ryan, I've seen too much of Patrick Mahomes scrambling this year, and it makes me uncomfortable to think that he's still the team's leading rusher entering week 7.
Well, I'll tell you what makes me uncomfortable. We're not going to run sneaks, but we're going to run options. That makes no sense to me.
No, right?
Let's try to not get the guy hit, okay? I'll tell you, I am a bit old school when it comes to this, and I've been on this tear for the last few years about play call balance. And it's not necessarily whether you line up in pro or you want to go offset I or whatever it is. I want to see the fullback back on the field a little bit more. If you want to continue to exert your will, not just 6 linemen, which I am loving, by the way, but I want to see him actually come downhill and smash somebody. And I think you can do that from time to time as a changeup. It can't be a staple of an offense for Andy Reid because the West Coast is what it is. But I do think evolving that run offense to be more multiple and still bring the intensity. I feel like when sometimes you just get in that outside zone pattern, it takes a bit of the intensity off of it, particularly for Pacheco, but I think he's stepping up. But everybody else, I think, is playing more of the angles than the physicality. I think the physicality has to be there no matter what you're running.
I'll be honest, Aaron. Look, we talk about this ad nauseum, man. It is not in Andy Reid's DNA, man. And I say that, and I say also Matt Nagy as well. And look, people think that I just have this issue with the play call, and I do in a way, but it's to Ryan's point. You want to keep the defense honest, man, and it is a simple philosophy, a difference in philosophy of play calling. When Eric Bieniemy literally was the offensive coordinator, he had no problem, in enticing them to run the football when it mattered. And now that you have a quarterback who was the OC and former head coach, of course, and Matt Nagy and Andy, all they want to do, which is fine, is get Patrick those numbers that are just awe-inspiring and dropping and stuff like that. But it's like at the end of the day, when you get down to the goal line, and yes, it paid dividends this past game, but week in and week out, I don't care if Kareem Hunt has 4 rushing touchdowns in the ball game. When you get down there, first and goal at the 3-yard line, you need to be at least trying to put the ball in the first couple of downs on the ground, so you don't have a 99-yard pick six happen like that because you're trying to be too cute and get the numbers up.
They've always done the cute stuff at the goal line. It's not my favorite either. We're running out of time on this Raider week preview. Of course, we'll talk about it later in the show. But JC, just on the running game, what have you seen from Kansas City's rushing attack, and what would you like to see against the Raiders?
Well, I mean, it's just not their style. We've said this year after year after year. I mean, why don't Andy Reid run the ball? Why? But you never say it when they win the Super Bowl, right? I mean,
yes,
so yeah. But the object is to win. Now, obviously, they didn't win a couple early, but this team is a throwing team, and it's going to be a throwing team, and they're going to supplement the running game. They're going to throw those quick screens outside that are like running plays, that kind of stuff. This Andy Reid is just not an I formation downhill running coach, and he's never has been, even in Philly. So we can talk till we're blue in the face. We're not going to see that. We're going to see what we're seeing, and hey. It's worked for what, the last however many years, a long time. So, until they start losing a lot more than they're winning, they're not going to change. So,
as you mentioned, the short pass game kind of supplements the run game, and that short pass game is about to get a big boost with the return of Rashee Rice. We will talk much more about Kansas City's wide receiver 1 returning into the fold right after this.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, we're back in on the Chiefs Squad Show. Aaron Ladd, JC Pearson, Ryan Tracy, Darren Smith, and you. Thank you so much for joining us as we preview Raider Week here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I titled this episode, Rashee Rice set to unlock Kansas City's offense. It's hard to unlock an offense that's averaging 31 points per game over the last three, but maybe he adds a little bit more fuel to the fire. Remember, in Rashee Rice's rookie year, 79 catches, 938 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns before obviously he got hurt last year and the 6-game suspension that started off this year. Ryan, kick us off on this one. What are the expectations for Rashee Rice in this game and rest of the season?
For me, I'm trying to stay with Andy and be like, we're going to pepper him in. It's going to be all right. Everyone else I know is right in my ear. Feed him every single target. Yeah, okay, I get that. I think the responsible thing is to see obviously what shape he's been in bring him along, let him be part of the offense. But I think what you saw last week is getting back to where they were a few years ago, where it was just spread it everywhere. 8 targets, 8 receivers targeted. I think you got to keep that, let him have a chunk of that, take a little bit away from a couple of other guys. But I don't think you want to ruin Hollywood's progress to this point. I think he's starting to really feel it for maybe the first time in a Chiefs uniform, right? Obviously, Xavier is him. He could probably take a few less snaps given his physical ailments the last couple of weeks. I did think he looked better against the Lions, but you can never take a couple of snaps off of him and feel too bad. And really, I think it's about him and Travis getting their timing on the interior kind of worked out. And I'm really excited about it. I thought he looked physically ready to go. I just want to see how they choose to implement it and whether it's, hey, let's get him sorted right away or just let it come to him.
Everybody's got to eat, I think, is the slogan that is around this offense with Rashee Rice. Darren Smith, what have you seen being on the ground there? I know he's been practicing. He's been around the facility. Hasn't been able to be a part of the team, obviously, with the suspension. What have you seen?
So he has been around the facility. I think over the last two weeks, he's been able to be there, been in the meetings, but can't practice with him. Of course, whether or not he practiced out at Patrick Mahomes' house on this field out there, that remains to be seen. We're not going to talk about that. But be that as it may, I'm with Ryan. I do believe that they're going to initially try to just ease him in. But look, I don't give betting advices, but I would say anytime touchdown Rashee Rice in that game.
That sounds like betting advice to me.
Yeah, I'm telling you what I would do if I was betting on that game. That's what I would do.
Why do you say that? What makes you say that?
Look, I mean, Patrick is someone who, depending on the opponent, depending on the circumstances, he always wants to get that certain wide receiver, a touchdown. Case in point, when there was a lot of talk when we had Josh Gordon, and Josh had been on the squad for a while and hadn't scored, and Patrick made it a point that particular, the very next game that he was going to get him the touchdown. He was the first person to score a touchdown in that game, Josh Gordon. That was his only touchdown he ended up scoring for Kansas City, but he made it a point to do that. So I just see the return of it. And look, it's against Raider Week. He's going to be making his debut. It's going to be the first time that he's out there on the field with everybody. And this is a healthy offense. Everybody is healthy, going into this game. So I think that's also important as well. So, and if he gets him that touchdown, just the electricity in the crowd is going to be too much. So that's why
JC, our first look at Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and Rashee Rice all at the same time. What are your expectations? Is it their first time?
Yeah, for this season, right? And I mean, Hollywood got hurt when last year in preseason.
They've only been on the field for one play together.
Yeah, but I'm with Ryan. I don't think that they should just throw him in there and just let him go for a number of reasons. Like you said, Aaron, this team is averaging 31 points, over the last however many games. Remember, the position that Rasheed was playing is where Juju plays, and Juju's been playing well and productive. So you can supplement some of those reps. What you don't want to do is just throw him out there and let him go, and then now he pulls a hammy, and now he's out for 4 or 5 more weeks. So you got to bring him along. I don't care how much running you've been doing, how much sprinting, how much whatever. A game speed is different, especially when you got the pads on and you're getting hit and things like that. So, that's the last thing you want him to do is go out there and pull something the first week out there. That's not going against your touchdown theory, Darren. When they get in the red zone, you can throw them in if that's what they want to do, but you don't just throw them out there and let them play, 25, 30 plays. I don't think, especially because this offense has been playing well. Juju's been playing well in that role as well. So you can work him in.
Well, JC, let me let you know something. They have him in the starting lineup, and they got him running first team. So he's going to he's going in there right away.
He's got fresh legs, but I'm saying I don't think that he's going to be playing every rep. I think they're going to supplement him because, how's everybody going to think that if they throw him out there and then, second quarter, third quarter, he blows a hammy, which happens a lot with guys who sit out of training camp or guys that have missed time and then they come back. Everybody's excited that he's back, no question. But, you got to temper it a little bit. It's still early in the year.
Well, how about this, JC? What if, and to your point, don't throw him out, don't go full throttle right away. What if we just have him out there to spell some other guys, one, and then also have him out there as a chance to kind of decoy, as a chance to give the defense kind of the illusion that we're going to throttle him up right away. Maybe give somebody else, it gives defensive coordinators something else to think about.
But again, a decoy, I've never seen it drawn up like that where they say, hey, you're a decoy over there, especially your first game. He's hyped up. He's going to be ready to go. So anytime he's in, he's going to be wanting to go. Now they're going to get him some touches. No question about it. They're going to get him some touches, but I just think you just got to kind of temper it a little bit and bring him along so that, nothing happens the first few weeks.
Hey, Aaron, look, I want to throw some out there, and Ryan, and then we can talk about, I know you the host and all, but, a part of this chief sheet is coming to me right now because I know we're going to talk about it Sunday. But I do want to ask you this. So with the return of Rice, though, and this is just for anyone, but with the return of Rice, how is it going to have an adverse effect on other players such as the Tyquan Thornton, getting those targets and getting those catches, because he was in the game, but didn't get any targets in last Sunday's game against the Lions. So there was obviously going to be some kind of some adverse effect to Rashee Rice coming back, where other players who were getting those targets, getting those yards, getting those catches won't be getting them now.
I got a theory, and I was just going to bring him up as well because I think the guy that maybe reaps the most benefit out of trying to show at least maybe even the first 15, hey, we're going to give it to Rasheed, we're going to let him try. I think the guy that reaps it is over the top, and it is Tyquan Thornton, because I think they're going to jump all over Rasheed if they start getting him a couple of targets.
I think this is an overwhelmingly positive response for the locker room. And it stood out what Travis Kelce had to say on his podcast, New Heights, kind of about the return of Rashee Rice and how people stood by him, the free 4 shirts and everything about Rasheed. They love this guy. And you can say what you want about the suspension. Obviously, it wasn't the smartest decision that he's ever made, and he's owned up to it. I've talked about it to him in the locker room. Darren, I'm sure you've talked to him about it. The team by him in this, and they understand that when he's on the field, he has a skill set that can't be replicated. I know Tyquan Thornton made some amazing plays against the New York Giants. He's not Rashee Rice. He's not what Rashee Rice brings to this offense on a day in and day out basis. I think, especially back to what we were talking about in the last episode, and I'll pass it to whoever wants to take it from here. It's about the mentality of the locker room with Kansas City. You know, this is a team that is very, very up and down with the highs and the lows. They've rode the roller coasters. They played the most football of any NFL team since 2018, if you consider the playoffs as well. Having Rashee Rice is going to bring an instant boost, not only to what they do on the field, but also the morale in the locker room, in my opinion.
I'll let somebody else take it. I'll go last. I got a lot to say on that.
I'd argue we already see some of the effects. I don't think it's any coincidence the last couple of games or since he's been in the building and been in meeting rooms and been around the dudes. Like, I think that makes a difference.
Oh yeah, no doubt. There's some more energy. No question about it. Now you think, hey, we got all our boys now. You know, let's go. Right? No more excuses. No nothing. We've full strength. Like Darren was saying, everybody's healthy. You know, hey, let's go do what we know how to do.
Just don't run into each other on the routes anymore, you know?
Right.
Let's make sure
right.
doesn't mess too much.
Hey, look, I'm gonna tell you, man, coming out the locker room Sunday, man, talking to Harrison, even talking to the defensive players, like their excitement level is off the charts. And let me say this. I will say this, that the return of Rashee Rice I'm going to tell you who puts pressure on. It put pressure on Andy Reid and Matt Nagy with this play calling, because the players all summer long have talked about what they expect this offense to be and what they expect this offense to look like. And the fact that now, again, we're going into week 7 in the NFL, where a lot of teams' players their star players are injured. We're coming in with everybody healthy. That is unheard of going into week 7. Everybody on the offense is healthy going into this ball game. And the fact that, you know, like you said, they've been scoring 31 points average the last 3 games, and that was without Rasheed. With Rasheed, I'm telling you, there is no excuse. This offense, for me, gets no excuse if they're not putting 30 points up on the board, because again, with all the different specialties that these players do with Rasheed, Juju, Hollywood, Xavier, Travis, Pacheco, and Hunt, Noah Gray, you mix them in. I mean, that's a lot of pressure for Andy Reid and Matt Nagy to be drawing up plays to where we should not be seeing anything less than 30 points from the Chiefs offense.
Darren, I want to go right back to you, because on the intro you mentioned that it also adds pressure to Mahomes. What did you mean by that?
Well, again, you know, Mahomes has now jumped up in Vegas to the front, to the front row as it relates to MVP odds. And one of the things that has always worked in Mahomes' favor, the 2 MVP seasons that he had, he led the league in touchdown passes, he led the league in total yardages, led the league in pass yards. I think he passed for 5,000 yards in both of those seasons, and he is right now leading the league, I think, with a little bit over 1,700 yards right now in the passing yards, and I think he has like 17 or 19 total touch. I think it might be 15 total touchdowns, 11 in the air, 4 on the ground. And so right now, you know, with the offense looking the way it's looked, and one of the quick things is that the Chiefs, when those years he won the MVP, had the number 1 scoring offense and the number 1 offense overall. And if that ends up that way, that will help him get the MVP, because people did not like the Chiefs the last 2 years because they wasn't putting points on the board. Now they're putting points on the board, and people feel like their parlays got a better chance. I'm telling you, this is hey, you think I'm joking? Trust me, man.
I thought you meant Mahomes felt pressure to get for the ball right off the top. I thought now he comes back into the huddle, and Mahomes is like, all right, I gotta lead this guy off the top, because I don't see a lot of that in their offense. Realistically, they have. Understands that I'm probably going to get 4 to 5 targets throughout the game every day. Every game. I'm not sure when they're going to come, but they're going to come to me at some point. Rice now comes in and he absorbs another slice of that pie, and now everybody else starts looking around.
Everybody has to keep their head on the swivel because you don't know who's going to get it. That's the beauty of this offense with everybody there now at full strength. You don't know who is going to get the ball, which is going to hamper the defense, because they don't know who to defend. They don't know who to double now.
Can this possibly help the run game in any way? I'm desperate here.
Yes,
I really am.
You got to run it in order to help the run game. You got to run it.
They give Xavier Worthy the jet sweeps. Maybe Rashee Rice can get a jet sweep or two, you know?
And man,
You're
look, man. I have seen Andy Reid. I think it might have been against Philly. Isaiah Pacheco ran the ball on first down coming out the half. I think he might have got 9 yards on it. It was 2nd and 1. Instead of just giving him the ball back to extend the play, they had Patrick Mahomes drop back twice on 2nd down and 3rd down. It's like, bruh. And then they punted the football. So I don't know what to tell you here. And I mean, they're going to do whatever they want to do.
I'm with you though, emotionally.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
I appreciate the support. Thankfully, we have one of the shakiest quarterbacks in all of the National Football League entering Arrowhead this week 7. We will talk about Geno Smith and his lackluster performance right after this. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, log-on screens, prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why we use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. The app makes it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. All right, our final segment here on the Chiefs Squad Show on the midweek. Aaron Ladd, JC Pearson, Ryan Tracy, and Darren Smith. We appreciate you rocking with us as we preview Raider Week. I'm sorry that it feels like I'm dumping on Geno Smith, but I'm like scrounging the internet for any positive stat that he can offer, and there's really not much out there. 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, which we mentioned earlier in the podcast, leads the NFL. He's currently 28th in quarterback rating and 31st in passer rating. Bottom half quarterback, subpar offense. Y'all are not scared by Ashton Genty. Can Kansas City get multiple turnovers out of Geno Smith? We'll start with you on this one, JC Pearson.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're going to be ahead in the score. So they're going to have to throw the ball to try to catch up. That offensive line is terrible. I know we putting it all on Geno, but them guys up front are causing Geno a lot of problems. And I mean the guys up front on his own team, right? So, yeah. So that's where the problem starts, man, because, he's under a pressure a lot. He's getting hit. He's getting sacked. He's trying to throw the ball under duress. Geno's got some talent. We saw him in Seattle the last few weeks. And
he had one good year in Seattle.
Well,
he had one good year in Seattle.
They got him a contract, right? So
he did all of that,
right?
They got paid.
Yeah. So got him paid, so we know he's capable at least. But so you don't want to do, you don't want to underestimate the guy. So I think you just need to go out and jump on him right from the start. Put pressure on that offensive line, and then start hitting Geno. And yes, absolutely. He has no choice but to throw the ball up because they're going to be behind by a lot and playing catch up.
Ryan Tracy, Geno's 35 years old and a bottom tier statistical quarterback this year. Is there any chance that he gives the Raiders a chance to pull off this upset?
I got a 35-year-old truck, and I'll tell you, every now and then it'll run like there's no problems, right? You get the right day, and it'll fire up. So like,
get the right gas in there,
right?
Yeah,
you ain't kidding.
Yeah.
Every now and then, like my point being is, you can never count him out. Him and Carroll have a relationship that maybe everything just gets fluky, and as strange as the Chiefs' ups and downs have been, maybe they just have one big up left in them. I didn't think that they could win that game with Carr when they ended up circling the stadium after the game. So I'm not going to say no.
Right. And to that point, Ryan, when they play Kansas City, or when anybody plays Kansas City, regardless of what they've been doing, this is their time to shine. They think if we can come in here and we can beat Kansas City, so we're going to get their best effort, no doubt about it. If rivalry, whatever the case may be, they're playing the Chiefs. And whenever anybody plays the Chiefs, they're going to bring their A game.
The Geno Smith-led Raiders are averaging 17 points per game, Darren Smith.
Yeah, I mean, that's
You
that's
said
pretty
that
bad.
like,
I think Cleveland's
I'm just
offensive
reading the
scheme
stat. I'm just reading the stats. I'm just
Yeah.
reading the stats.
Well, and here's the crazy thing is that they have talent. They have talent to skill positions. I mean, obviously, Genty, is just a rookie, but backing up Raheem Mostert, you got Trey Tucker, Jacoby Myers, and Brock Bowers is no slouch either, and Michael Mayer. So I mean, they have the talent at the skill position, but when it just comes down to it, the Chiefs are just more talented. And at the end of the day, the Chiefs know that what's in front of them. They know that they have to win because, if you look at the rest of the schedule, at least for Sunday, you got the Colts traveling to Los Angeles, taking on the Chargers. The Colts have the best record, I think, in the NFL right now, along with Tampa Bay. So, the Chiefs need the Colts to take care of business in Los Angeles. And, of course, the Giants, if they can build off of their win against the Eagles, they go into Denver. So it could essentially be a three-way tie. By Sunday night, if everything plays out the way that the Chiefs hope it does.
There was so much talk coming out of that Jacksonville game about, Chris Jones is dogging it and he's not giving full effort. This is the game where he comes out and gets 2 sacks in the first half, and then you can dog it the rest of the game. I don't really care at that point. Just handle business. Get the big lead, set it ahead, and you're good.
Or you can take the 2 worst blockers on their line and destroy them all day long. That's what you
all day long. Because if not, people are going to say, he just played well against the scrubs, and he got a couple sacks and then he took it easy again. Yeah, you got to jump on these guys, man. All those guys up front, him, Nadi, Karlaftis, all those guys, man. They need to have a good game.
And to be honest, this is the type of ball game that if you're the Chiefs, you need to be beating up on a team like the Raiders. I mean, you need to be able to run the score because you don't want to. I mean, you don't want like last week's game against the Detroit be like an aberration. Like, okay, Detroit had penalty stuff called against them, a fourth down catch by Amon-Ra St. Brown that he couldn't get. That this is a team you're 11.5 point favorite. You need to go out there and prove why you're an 11.5 point favorite. So so the following week, when you take on the Washington Commanders here at home, you have a nice point spread. And the following week, I think the following week, they travel out to Buffalo. So, I mean, if I'm
they
the
have
Chiefs,
a bye next week, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I think they have a bye coming out of Buffalo. So if you're Kansas City, you need to show why Vegas and other people expect you to beat this team by double digits. And
bro, you on that betting stuff? Huh?
hey, let me tell you something. You joking, but I'm telling you, man, that is one of the reasons why the Chiefs have been the quote unquote villain over the last 2 years, because people feel like as talented as this team is, they're not putting up the points and stuff that they were doing in those years, in the year that they won against Philly, and even the year that they won in San Francisco, that was a defensive year. So, I mean, and Mahomes had not been in the MVP conversation since he last won it. So now you got a chance to put points on the board in the offense. Look, the players know that they have not been able to put points on the board like they have the last 2 years. They know with everybody here, and they have no more excuses. Everybody's healthy. The suspension is over with. There's no excuse for them no more. So they can't say, well, Rasheed's out and Patrick took him out last year and Worthy this and that. No, everybody's healthy. Now you have no excuse because you've talked about it all summer long, what this offense should look like. And you're talking about stretching the ball down the field. Now you got to put your money where your mouth is.
JC, you've been in the locker room in Kansas City. I'm sure there's been a team that's come in that you've been completely overmatched. You've beat everything says that you should beat them. Their quarterback is wounded. He's not playing well. How do you capitalize on that? What are the coaching points that you're hearing that week? What's kind of the mindset when you're approaching a game where you are a double-digit favorite?
Well, I'm gonna tell you from the opposite side, because back in my day, we weren't real good. I mean, we were pretty good. We're not what the Chiefs are now, obviously, but Buffalo, in a sense, was, because they had gone to 4 straight Super Bowls. So they were coming in on a Monday night. Now, this is not a Monday night, obviously, but and we, I mean, it was unreal. This was kind of the start. If people know, this is kind of the start of Arrowhead and all this stuff just being what it is now, because we weren't given any chance, really. I think it was like 91. Buffalo was running everything, and everybody came in here and our mindset was we're going to make a statement and we're going to go out and we're going to do what we need to do, blah, blah, blah. And nobody gave us a chance. And we went out there and we kicked. Can you cuss on this show? But anyway,
No.
we kicked,
No.
But we handled business in that 91. Yeah. On that Monday night for real. And, so that's what teams are thinking now when they play the Chiefs, the opposite. But, that's why they have to be ready every week, regardless of who they play, regardless of what the record is, because them beating the Chiefs puts them on the map. And so they, regardless of Geno and this offensive line, they got, the Chiefs got to be ready to play, and they know that.
Just feels like all the stars are aligned in Kansas City's favor. They're averaging 31 points per game with the last three. They're getting their wide receiver one back. Their quarterback's playing the best ball that he's played in a while. Geno is playing the worst ball that he's played in a while. It's just everybody here is picking the Raiders, right?
That's what you don't want, though. That's what you don't want is all the stars to align to feel like there's no way you can lose. Geno sucks. The offensive line sucks. We're playing well. We get Rasheed back. That's the feeling that you don't want, because that's normally when stuff goes wrong. But so hopefully they don't have that mindset and they're approaching it like Raider week for real.
I want to see Chris Jones change his jersey number this week. I want him to wear 68. Because the Chris Jones, because the tackle for the Raiders wears 70 and the left guard wears 66. I want him right in between them. I want to change it up, and let's see what that does.
All day long, huh? Yeah.
Let's take one question before we get out of here. I think we had a great show today previewing the Raiders. Of course, we're going to be live post-game here on the Locked On Chiefs YouTube, reacting as soon as the game goes 000. This one's for you, Ryan. Any possible trade options on the defensive line? What do you think? Does Kansas City need to make a trade on the D-line?
Do they need to know if it pops up there before the deadline, if somebody's ready to try to reap some rewards? I'd call Mike Berganzi about Simmons. Sure, absolutely. Hendrickson sounds like he's getting interest and might get moved somewhere else. They honestly should if they're the Bengals, but they're the Bengals, so who knows? Personally, I don't know that Ajabo's worth making an investment in. And Jermaine Johnson, I don't know that he's a Spags type guy. If Uche couldn't make him, I'm not sure Jermaine is going to.
Any final thoughts before we get out of here, gentlemen? I appreciate y'all joining us.
Look, I'll be the first to say the Chiefs will win because they had no choice but to win. I mean, they can't afford to fall to 3-4, just like they couldn't afford to fall to 2-4 last week. So I expect the Chiefs to make another statement win as they of course prepare for prime time the following week, hosting the Washington Commanders on Monday Night Football.
Well, dog, you putting big money on the over then, right? On the line?
All
that you just said, man. They have no choice.
I'm putting over on the Chiefs with the points. If the Chiefs, I think Vegas has them with 27.5. That's an easy over.
Here's my wish for the Chiefs. 2 rushing touchdowns, but none of them are from a guy named Patrick Mahomes. I don't want to see Patrick Mahomes running the ball. I know it's a part of the offense and the scrambles. This is a week where you don't need it. Let your running backs run downhill, and maybe we can get something going in the run game.
You don't want to see him flexing in the end zone?
You're born in the wrong era, man. You needed to be back in the 70s, 80s, way back, the I formation, just 3 yards in a cloud of butt. Christian Okoye, Barrett, you needed to be back in that
matriculate.
Era,
matriculate. We're going to matriculate.
Yeah.
We're going to matriculate to the next episode. We're out of here. This is the Chiefs Squad Show. Appreciate y'all joining us. We're live after the game, 000 this Sunday.